For example, the young lady that designed these, I've only ever met her once in real life, and she's actually from Missouri. The reason she came to be a part of our organization as our graphic designer for our flyers and such is because back when MySpace was big, we actually had a Tainted Reality logo design contest where we always had our main logo there, but we wanted people to kind of stylize it, do something with it so that we could like put it on our MySpace as like a sticky. And she won that contest, but I was so impressed with her work that I approached her later and said, hey, we need somebody to do this kind of stuff for us on a regular basis. And she's been on ever since. So like, when you see stuff like that,
take advantage.
Take advantage.
It can't hurt. The worst thing that could happen is they say no thank you.
Yeah.
That's better than not trying when you might have had an offer.
And then there's also, you know, like I told this gentleman over here, submit your portfolio. Get your portfolio together. If you want to submit to American companies like us, you know, in English, cool, make it as professional as possible. On these flyers up here, it has my personal email address on it. We're always taking applicants because right now, one of the big things for us is that we're looking for content creators for Tainted Reality. Actually, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Content creators?
Yeah, how we're looking for content creators.
Basically, the process right now is that we're looking for people to submit actual content to me so that we can kind of look at if you were only doing written work, then we'd want to see some kind of relevant article. Like if we're doing it on J-Rock, we'd want to see, you know, are you focusing on just reviews? Okay, so can you review it? Are you focusing on more of an opinion piece? Is it going to be something really unique and out there? Just, you know, do you understand English? Just because you can speak it doesn't mean, you know, maybe it doesn't translate very well in writing.
Street teams are actually something that we've taken advantage of quite a few times. Back when I was first getting into the scene and first started promoting J-Rock, there was a stigma in the scene about street teams because some other promoters were using street teams, and some fans enjoy doing it. You know, you've been in the scene long enough. You remember this drama. But some fans would jump on top of the opportunity to help promote their favorite band, but then there would be some other fans, you know, behind the scenes, because this was back when like forums were really big. People would talk trash all the time, and they would say, "No, don't do it, because you're taking advantage of the fans. You're exploiting them. You're making them work for free to bring people to your concert." And I was like, I don't see that. I don't see how they're exploiting them. These fans are volunteering to help out their favorite band. So I decided that to avoid that drama and also to kind of reward these fans for their help, we offered, I don't like calling them incentives. I like calling them thank yous. But anybody who's street team for Tainted Reality for a specific show, we get certain thank yous, like let it to the venue first. Have a private meet and greet with the band afterwards, so the band can personally say thank you to you. Obviously, some bands weren't too cool with that last one, but the ones that were really, you know, met these fans face to face and met lots of these fans. So as for street teams, I really do promote them. I love them. I love working with them. It's always important, though, to have a very professional street team leader to make sure that, because when it comes to street teams, you're going to have people who are fired up, and then you're going to have people who want it for the social status. Be like, I'm on a street team for this band. You know, like, it used to be bragging rights, remember? People were, oh, I'm on the Dark Gray Street team. I'm out there promoting. They had that one flyer. Yeah, it would happen all the time, where they, you know, people would join the street team and brag about it all over the internet that they were part of the street team, then do zero work. So for me, it was always important to hire a local street team leader in every town, because we only organized street teams when we went on tour. And we always had localized street teams in every town. And we would have one leader that would make sure everybody was doing their job. And if somebody wasn't doing their job, guess what? They weren't getting into the venue early, they weren't meeting the band. That's simple. You're not going to work, you don't get the perks. So it's always important to have a very professionally oriented street team leader. And we've had some really great street team leaders in the past that have helped they've helped us sell out shows in Boston, Los Angeles, New York, all these big cities. I personally headed the street team in Philadelphia back in 2010 for our GBK's of Saline tour. And that was unfortunately a night that we got struck with a blizzard. But we still had 100 people show up for that show, and that was really phenomenal. And then I found out what was expected for that show. 400. There should have been 400 people at that show if there wasn't the blizzard. So it's very important to really push the street team and really make sure it's being done and really being aggressive with the street teaming. So I really do support street teams, and I think that there is a lot of merit in it.
Well, I think part of that depends on if you're an indie band or a major label. You know, like Sound B, you know, they're on an indie band. They're at Starwave Records, pretty small label, indie, but they do what makes them Sound B. You know, Kiwama, the record label owner, he doesn't tell them, I want you to do this. Yep. Because he knows that they're gonna make something good. And that's what's been keeping these fans for so long. But you look at some of these other major labels in Japan, and it's all about, do this. I don't care who you are, I don't care what talent you have, you're going to do this. And it's depressing.
Yeah, sometimes, and this happens in the American industry too, is that when you're a major label band and you just get signed, you're thinking, oh great, you know, it says in your contract you get to write your own songs, oh great. But then the label will manipulate you. And they'll say, okay, you can write your own songs and write a song that sells, or we'll drop you. So then you're manipulated into writing that commercial hit, that commercial sellout hit, because you want to eat. You know, you don't want to be a starving artist forever. Here's your shot at the big time. Now write a song that's a sellout song, or go hungry. You know, and that happens all the time in Japan. You know, especially some of these smaller VK bands. They get that big shot, they get that opportunity.
And they're turned into cookie cutters.
Yeah.
All these new VK bands that I don't know if you guys see around. Sometimes I'm, you know, on the internet or flipping through a magazine, and I'm just like, who the fuck are these guys? They look like the guy on the other page. Oh yeah, there's a quote from Tatsuo? From Mook. You guys know the band? Yeah. There's this it was a really long quote. It was like a paragraph, so I'm gonna kind of paraphrase what he said. But basically, I was, you know, being a dick, scrolling through Tumblr one day, and I find this amazing quote that just like completely blew me away. He's saying, VK bands these days are all cookie cutters. And the reason that it feels like the whole scene has just become stagnant is because these new bands are afraid to try something new. They're afraid to do what their predecessors did, you know, to be terrifying, like, you know, Dire and Grey when they first started. There weren't a lot of Dire and Grey bands. Like, what they did was pretty cool. There aren't a lot of ex-Japans, you know? These guys made themselves. And VK bands are afraid to do that these days. They don't want to be dropped. They just want to be able to, you know, do music, whatever. So they're just complying. And it's making these older bands like Mook not try. They feel like, well, I have no reason to push myself because these guys aren't scaring me. They're not doing anything new that's making me think, man, the kids are going to forget who I am. I got to do something even more incredible on my next album. They're not. So, people, you know, you got the guys in Mook saying, why am I going to try if these guys are just going to break up in 6 months because they sound like every other band out there? And that's terrifying and depressing, and if you think about it, kind of true.
There are some artists out there that try that. For example, Candy Spooky Theater, which is one of our bands that we've worked with. They are self-produced. They do everything themselves. They print their own CDs, they get it out to the stores themselves. But it's a lot of work. And a lot of these guys in Japan, they're fighting just to be able to survive, you know, to be able to eat, you know. And it's a lot of work for them when they still have a day job. Yeah, and they have to submit themselves to the day job. So SoundCloud and independent iTunes, not as popular over there. It happens, but it's not as popular over there. It's a lot easier to sign with an independent label.
They've had J-Rock Revolution in California several years ago, and they tried to do it again, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, like, from what I understand, the J-Rock Revolution Festival was a big hit. It sold out, both nights. And they tried to follow it up, didn't really work out. From what I understand, I wasn't really involved in it, but the remnants of what was to be the second J-Rock Revolution Festival turned into what I honestly believe was the best thing that ever happened to Visual K, which was the 2008 Rockstar Taste of Chaos tour, where you had Despair's Ray, Mook, and The Underneath playing alongside Events Sevenfold, Bullet for My Valentine, all those other really, really popular, I hesitate to call them metal bands, but
American bands.
No, Bullet for My Valentine's British.
Whatever, close enough.
But, I'm sorry, I'm a Metallica fan, and none of these guys live up to Metallica, so. But my point is that I thought that was one of the greatest things that ever happened to the J-Rock scene, because it took our movement and put it into a mainstream festival. But it was also a bit of a misstep, because one of the things you're going to run into as an American working with the Japanese music industry is a lot of cultural misunderstanding. And the Japanese did not, they wanted certain specs to be met in terms of merchandise. And because they were holding fast to certain specs when it came to the merchandise, Despair's Ray did not get to have their American debut album out in time for the tour. It came out halfway through the tour. So they could only start selling it after half of the shows had been done. So that was ultimately detrimental. And there was a lot of other missteps that really, because of the cultural misunderstandings, that really held the J-Rock scene back over the last couple of years. To put it into perspective for you, one of the bigger bands that we worked with, I'm not going to name names, when we were first bringing them over, I told them flat out, you're going to want to allow photos. You're going to want to allow fans to take photos during the concert, because it's normal in America. Nobody disallows it. Very rarely. Very, very rarely. Of course, most of you know the stigma that VK bands do not allow photos. I presented my case. I said, look, you're going to appeal to the VK fans, no problem. They understand it. But if you want mainstream popularity, if you want to break out past this, which is the point of bringing you guys to America, this is going to hold you back. It's going to be detrimental. And it's going to create a large divide between you and potential new fans. The answer I got back was, we're going to cancel the entire tour if you push this issue. Over photos. They are so unwilling to move on certain issues, and small issues, that it makes things very, very difficult, and is one of the contributing factors to why the scene has fallen. Because only people like us, here who are heavily interested in Japanese music, will be tolerant of that and understanding of that. But say,
Do you know how much of an asshole I feel like when a new fan comes to the table and I have to tell them they can't take a picture of the band? It's like, dude, I just, they're a brand new fan. They're totally into it. And I just told them no. And I have to explain to them that's not how it works in Japan. And sometimes they understand. Sometimes they think I'm an asshole. I'm not trying to be. It's just cultural difference, and the band doesn't understand how it works here.